Visit with Ron, the car guy from Westside Auto Pros, to teach you a little something about your vehicle. So again, even though it was 80 degrees yesterday, people enjoying themselves, you have to think about the fact that it's going to get cold here, and people with four-wheel drives are going to be in their heyday.
That is correct. That is correct. And it was, you know, this last Saturday, it was a little chilly out when I was coming up with this idea of what to talk about. And it's gonna hit us again pretty soon. But yeah, I did want to talk a little bit today about four-wheel drive vehicles and all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is becoming a little more popular than it has been in the past, and it's certainly a great thing to have on your vehicle in Iowa, especially in the wintertime. And they require a little extra maintenance, a little different maintenance than a regular car. But before we roll into that, for those that are wondering or curious, do I have all-wheel drive or what's the difference? Most cars out there, there's a few rear-wheel drive, which means the rear wheels propel the vehicle. That's where the power from the engine goes to.
Right. The way it always used to be.
The way it always used to be.
Yep.
And if you're wondering, they're the ones who are in front of you on the hill in the winter.
Exactly, not moving.
Right.
Yeah, sitting there doing this. Yeah, those are the ones. Yeah. That's why the city still puts out those barrels of sand by the hills, is for the rear wheel drive people. But then we made the transition back in the early 80s to front wheel drive vehicles, which is the most popular out there. And that is simply where the power from the engine is applied to the front wheels. It drags or it pulls the car down the road, and of course the back wheels just follow it. Four-wheel drive vehicles have the ability to apply the power to all four wheels, which is going to give you obviously superior traction. And on those type of vehicles, there's usually a lever, or on later models now, there's a switch or a knob you turn where you can select two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, whichever one you're desiring. And of course, the fastest growing segment of it now is all-wheel drive vehicles, which basically are in four-wheel drive most of the time. Some of them have some computer systems on it that will, you know, turn it on and off or apply power to certain wheels at certain times, but it's all automated. You have no control over it.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot more, you know, all-wheel drive offerings of vehicles out there. And again, they work like four-wheel drive. You have power to all the wheels when you need it, so you get superior traction. You're not doing what the rear-wheel drive cars do and just sitting there on the hill, not going up. But that's kind of the difference between the three. And the thing to remember is if you do have a four-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive vehicle, there's additional components that require maintenance on there. It's not like a two-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive or a front-wheel drive vehicle. They have a transfer case, and they have a second differential, which is the gear set for the additional sets of wheels. So,
which means moving parts.
Exactly. There's gears in there that turn and twist, and some of them have clutches and chains and stuff inside the transfer case. And of course, anytime we have metal on metal components turning, they need lubrication. So kind of picture it in layman's terms of a second transmission. And of course another differential that have fluids in them and certainly need to be changed, and some of them require special fluids. The maintenance intervals are a little bit different between manufacturers, but a good rule of thumb is if you have a four-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive vehicle, to have those gearbox fluids changed about every 50,000 miles.
Okay.
And make sure the right fluid is put into those. To skip that or not do that, I mean, you're going to have thousands of dollars worth of damage. The other thing to keep in mind too, on the transfer case and the differential, we have some people come in and say, well, I don't use it very often. I've got four-wheel drive, but I
never put it in four-wheel drive.
I never put it in four-wheel drive, or I only put it in four-wheel drive when it snows, so I don't need to change these fluids as often, and that's incorrect. Even if it's not in four-wheel drive, the stuff in there is still turning. It just doesn't have power applied to it. So, so the lubrication and the gears are still moving, and it's still important.
Because the wheels are still moving.
Absolutely, and they're connected.
The axles are moving.
Exactly, and they're connected to those gears and stuff inside. So it still needs to be serviced and changed, you know, on a mileage type basis.
Okay. And how pricey of a task is this?
You know, you can typically, it's around, depending on the fluid, it's around $100.
Okay.
A gearbox. So, $300 should change, both differentials and the transfer case. If you want to throw the transmission in there, then you're probably about $400. But you only have to do it every 50,000 miles. So it's not a deal breaker. And certainly if one of those components breaks, you can spend a couple $1,000
So you're talking thousands then.
Yeah, you can spend a couple grand in a hurry.
Yeah.
Just if one of them breaks, you've got 3 or 4 items in there. And then tires were the other thing that I wanted to speak about a little bit, because that's different when you go to service these vehicles. A 4-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive vehicle, they need to have tires that are the same diameter on all 4 wheels. And by same diameter, I don't mean you put a 16-inch on one end and a 15 on the other. All 4 tires have to have the same tread depth. Because,
okay.
Because as exactly.
Stagger.
As the tread wears down, the tire has a smaller diameter. So if you've got an all-wheel drive or a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and let's say you don't rotate the tires and you wear 2 out prematurely, you can't just buy 2 and put it on. Or if you're driving down the road and you hit a piece of metal or something in the road and it blows 1 tire out, you're probably going to be buying 4.
Really?
Yes. And the reason behind that is you have to have all 4 of those wheels rotating at the same speed. If you've got 2 tires that are worn or 1 new tire and 3 old tires, you've got 3 tires turning faster than the new tire, and it creates friction inside those gearboxes. They've got clutches and stuff, and everything has to be synchronized. And so you're creating friction by the front wheels turning faster than the back or vice versa, and that friction builds up heat, which cooks and ruins the fluid, which then can't lubricate the differential or the transfer case, and causes damage.
All right, you're cruising down the McVicker, you have a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive vehicle, you take out your right front tire, and you're thinking about trading your vehicle in 6 months. Okay, this could be a scenario here.
Sure.
Would it be better to go and say, okay, I'm going to try to find a used tire with the same tread depth that's on the car now, or obviously the easiest answer is get all 4 new tires, but you don't want to get 4 new tires. Do you think you could find a tire that has the same tread depth that you had?
Certainly, it'd be worth looking at. It might not be the same kind of tire, the same brand of tire, but you're looking for the tread depth.
So the tires are all the same.
Exactly. Okay. And the other thing to keep in mind, I mean, when you're looking at used tires, is, as we've talked on the show before, the DOT date. You don't want one
born-on date.
Exactly. And depending on what the vehicle is, let's say it's a higher end vehicle that's got an 18 or a 19 or a 20-inch tire on it. It could be an expensive tire. I mean, they could be $200-300, instead of $150. So that would certainly be an option to look around for. Yep.
Okay.
But the key is you want the diameter. So in other words, the tread depth of the tires. It's not like racing. We're not looking for stagger, but we want the tread depth of the tires to be the same, so we don't damage those components.
Yeah, so actually it is stagger, but it's 0 stagger.
Exactly.
It's 0 stagger. All the tires should be the same size.
Exactly. Okay. I recall, and it was several years ago, we had a Jeep come in, and the problem was they couldn't get it out of 4-wheel drive. I mean, it was hard to shift out of 4-wheel drive, and what it was is it had 2 worn tires on the back, and they were turning faster than the front ones, and it got everything into a bind, and
All right, so if you have an all-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive vehicle, and you have any questions, this is the guy that has your answers. It's Ron the Car Guy. There's Westside Auto Pros' address and their phone number. Or if you have a question, you can just jump online too, can't you?
You can go to AskRonTheCarGuy.com, or you can go to WestsideAutoPros.com. Contact me through there. I will answer your question.
Wonderful.